what's cool about him, he plays electric keyboard. Any one of you plays electric keyboard? We have some musicians. Wow, good show of hands. Yeah, right now this is mainly his electric keyboard here, but usually he does music as well. He speaks 3 languages, so English, Russian, right? Yes. And Norwegian.
And what about JavaScript?
Oh, JavaScript. Yeah, I didn't, it's already there. It's obvious. And also, his favorite movie is, you'll like this one, Fight Club. And what's the first rule of Fight Club? You don't talk about Fight Club. That's why I'll have to talk to him a little bit later. Yeah?
What's the password to internet?
Good question. Yeah, it's time for me. So, Maxim Salnikov, everyone.
Okay, let's start the show. Let's talk about, woo! Yeah, we'll check the level of applause after the session. Let's talk about mobile web today. What do I mean by mobile web? It's not just browsing the internet with your mobile device, but basically creating mobile experience using web technologies, or literally using mobile applications using JavaScript. On the next slide, I'll introduce myself. Meanwhile, please give me a favor to think about your answer on one question. Just imagine your project manager or your customer comes to you, and you are a front-end developer, obviously, and says, we need a mobile app. What will you tell him or her? Yeah, basically after React Native session, I can imagine, but stop a bit. Wait a bit. Okay, searching for this answer is on our today's agenda. My name is Maxim Salnikov. I came to you from Oslo, Norway. I'm Google developer expert in Angular, but I'm trying to not be biased. Also, I run local communities in Oslo dedicated to mobile development, Angular, and progressive web apps. Also, I'm the organizer and co-founder of MobileEra. And the next slide about this. Meanwhile, please follow me on Twitter. This is my handle, webmaxru. I'll post the link to the slides right after the session. MobileEra, a minute of shameless promotion. This is website name, MobileEra.Rocks, and this is conference for mobile developer that will happen for second time in Oslo this October. By mobile development, like always, I mean all the possible ways to create mobile apps for our users. So you see on screen that we'll cover pretty much everything. I'm happy to give you special discount with this code. No need to remember this. You can get it on slides after I share this. What you have to remember is my Twitter handle. Well, back to our question. Why it ever happened? What's so important in these mobile phones, you know? Let's have some statistics, some numbers, and they're quite impressive, I'd say. First, in 2014, the number of users on mobile bypassed the one on desktop. This is really awesome happening. Next, not so long time ago, October 2016, now mobile devices consume more traffic than desktops. This is also really, really impressive. What about, yeah, this is the time point. What about absolute numbers? Here they are. Some statistics on smartphone users. Okay, so we moved from regular mobile devices to specifically smartphones, because today we are interested in these ones. This year, it's well over 2 billions. And for you to better imagine this number, I can help you. This is just 60 populations of your lovely country. Good. Also, I can mention that according to statistics, demand for mobile developers is 5 times more than internal app teams in enterprises could make. Back to mobile web. Let's have a short look on the evolution of this. Who remember the name of technology? Yeah, this is WAP as a transfer and WML as a markup language. Old good times. But let's keep this for now and let's jump to the era when we could use more or less regular HTML on our devices. So this will be our first milestone. Then, thanks to media query, we could create, implement responsive web designs, and everything started to happen from this time point. We got super nice hybrid mobile applications. We got native ones. By native here I mean, of course, JavaScript compiled to native. We are on JavaScript conference. And even some unknown yet hero. I can list some heroes from each milestone: jQuery Mobile, Bootstrap, which is starting from version 3, mobile first one, hybrid, of course, most well known is Ionic. You all know native ones. But something was not so shiny on this timeline, and it happened approximately here. There was a problem. Hardware was really low performant. Plus, there was no possibility, such a great one at least, to use hardware APIs. And after some passion and initiative, this happened. Famous quote by Mark Zuckerberg, that he told this back in 2012, and basically mobile web and hybrid mobile apps as a part of this were feeling really bad at those times by the reasons I mentioned. I found really great visualization of the timeline, so it will show you this gap really clearly. So, first tries, we got phone gap, responsive web design. Yeah, so basically phone gap appeared a bit in advance, but it was, early stage of this nice effort. Then we have some circles on this part and this unknown yet hero. And here is this gap. Let's call what's on the left-hand side is mobile web 1.0, and what we have now, what we are happy to have now, is mobile web 2.0 or mobile web second edition or mobile web done in proper way. Yeah, let's return to implementation. How can we use this nice possibility? Good. We have 4 interesting frameworks. We have 3 plus 1. So, Ionic, NativeScript, React Native, and who is this plus 1? Who is this unknown hero? You heard at least 3 times about this guy today. PWA. You're right. Yes, it would be a big mistake for me to not take this emerging great technology into account while creating this session. So, I have taken this one. Of course, there are a lot different ones. These 3 plus 1 are super popular. They are open source. and they are widely adopted by developers. So let's have a closer look what to choose and when and how. What we'll check in next 20 minutes is some experiences. Developer experience for us, for ourselves. User experience. Okay, come on, we are users. We are always users in addition to our development efforts. And a dash of business. We love to develop, you know. Before we dive deep into comparison, let's check a bit how everything works under the hood. Start from Ionic. Classic of hybrid mobile application. So basically this is website, HTML, JavaScript, CSS, some graphic assets running within native container. The slogan is one code base running everywhere. And this is this is not just marketing bullshit. We'll check what's so unique in Ionic in comparison to other pretenders. Okay, some basic, very basic features. So I decided to emphasize on the ones, you know, that really distinct frameworks from each other, but maybe not on the marketing points. So yes, main one is really single code base for web plus all native stuff. Well, this is actually weak side of Ionic, but still, technology is following. We have web application running in what we call web view on native platforms. Powered by Angular, no questions here, and uses Cordova to actually create this container and to access native APIs. Okay, super clear, everything simple, we know this very good. Next one, NativeScript. Totally different approach. What we have as a result, we have really native application without need to use WebView. Of course, if in our application we wish to load some web pages, we can go for WebView. But this is just a part. Could be a part of an app. The outcome is 100% native application. Truly native one. Okay, this points again uses Angular, but if for some reasons you are not okay with this option, you can go with vanilla JavaScript, absolutely no problem. Technically, it uses what we call JavaScript virtual machine or machines because they are different for each platform. And basically, this virtual machine is shipped with your application. Thanks to this, we have real direct access to all native APIs. Just explanation of this magic. Here this magic runtime, which is virtual machine, and as I mentioned, they are different basically because platforms are fundamentally different. By platforms, of course, we mean today Android and iOS. For Android, we use V8, the latest, the greatest engine for JavaScript, and JavaScript core for iOS. Okay, it's enough technical details for us. Let's go for React Native. The result is really close to what NativeScript gives us. 100% truly native application. But approach is totally different again. Just a second. Yep. So what we have here, learn once, write anywhere. It's a bit different. It doesn't promise us a single code base for different platforms, and we'll check why. And some points again how it done internally, and how can we use this. So instead of shipping virtual machine, JavaScript one, we have a magic bridge between our JavaScript code and the native UI layer. It's inspired by React. So developers, for some reason, say that this is not React, but inspired by this. Actually, developers the same, Facebook, you know. And thanks to this architecture, we can do amazing things. First, we can have React Native up as a part of native application. And if you have Facebook, it's done this way. Some parts of Facebook native iOS application done using React Native, same with Instagram. And we can include modules written in native code. So this is not an access to native API, but we can just take these modules and include it in some magic way. So this is the picture of magic bridge that makes this magic possible. Okay, we are fine with technical stuff here again as well. Progressive web apps. Hard to present anything new about this after 3 sessions today about PWA. Let's go the simplest options. First, it just goes and takes the best parts from 2 universes, 2 totally different universes, native and web. Second, we are free to choose framework of our choice or go for vanilla.js, no problem. And without mentioning more technical details, I can just say that just use the latest browser APIs and you will get your progressive web app. By the way, I checked Wikipedia page recently, and before progressive web apps was stated as a new methodology to create applications, all that stuff. Now it's more or less what I just told. Just proper, modern way to create web applications. Yeah, just a reminder for you that heart of PWA is Service Worker API that can create, can perform really magic actions like serving offline version of application, provide background synchronization, provide push notifications, and many, many more. It's quite extensive API, believe me. Good. Now we are very good in technical details of our pretenders. Let's go for experience. Developer experience. Installation, setting up, scaffolding, really, really smooth and nice for all the frameworks. So really nothing interesting to compare here. I can just tell that absolutely no pain to set the frameworks. Each one has CLI, each one equipped with amazing tools to build UIs, to build your application, to emulate it, share it. You will just enjoy building this. And I think same applicable to PWA if you go for some framework. Okay, what about coding experiences and how we build UIs? Ionic, pretty straightforward. Angular, TypeScript, HTML. Why it's HTML? Because actually Ionic has its own markup. So this is HTML spiced up with some specific Ionic tags. But yeah, you can really easily recognize what's happening here. So this is a header plus one single button. And of course, you are free to use any standard HTML tag within Ionic ones, and in addition to ones. So the button is looking like this. As an output, we'll have different pictures for different platforms. This is the nature of Ionic. It tries to mimic the native UI of the corresponding platform, Android or iOS, and they added Windows recently. Okay, next, NativeScript. As I mentioned, Angular is optional. If you go for Angular, really makes sense to go for TypeScript. If not, you are fine with regular one. And as UI, we have to use XML. Why? Because there is no document object model anymore. We are not working with HTML anymore. So we have to specify native components from the platform. So here again, we have the same example, action bar and some simple button, and result is following. Obviously, it differs from what we have in Ionic because this is real button from real iOS and real Android, and they look like this on devices. React Native. React, so it's inspired by React, so I just mentioned React, ES6 and JSX. So if you know anything about React, the stack is really familiar to you. Believe it or not, but React Native didn't have a simple core button component until November 2016. Of course, there were some ways to have this active area on the screen called touchable highlight, but now finally we are happy to have native, really native button. And by the way, the color we specify here has different meaning for different platforms. For Android, it's background color. For iOS, it's text color on the button. You can ask me, wait, Maxim, we had some action bar on top of it. Where is it? And this is the good moment for me to tell about learn once, code anywhere. No single base, no single code base. Why? The idea of NativeScript is to hide platform differences behind, say, its own custom API. So we just put action bar and we don't care. Is it Android or iOS? It will render something native. But these platforms are fundamentally different. And what we call action bar is also very different. It plays totally different roles on these two platforms. And React Native is embracing this difference. It's kind of celebrating this difference, I can say. So what we will have as result? For iOS, we will use Navigator iOS component. For Android, we'll use Toolbar Android. No worries, there is really nice way to combine different files for different platforms within one project. So this will not be such a large pain for you. This is just to showcase this fundamentally different approach between NativeScript and React Native. But you know, as always, real life is more complex than documentation and just a couple of statements. Okay, this is different. I have to note that in this action bar, and probably in many other components exposed by NativeScript, there are some differences between iOS and Android. Why? Because I mentioned this part of UI plays different roles, and on iOS it used explicitly for navigation. I mean this back button on this title bar, so you can't override this action. On the other hand, in Android you can't specify text for this button. You always have to go for icons. So these, even on this simple example, we already hit some platform differences. So this was about NativeScript. Second note is about React Native. If you wish, there are some cross-platform implementations for to hide this complexity again. For this specific case, I recommend to have a look at React Native navigation component, which actually makes much more than just displaying this. Okay, next, PWA. Super simple. any framework, whatever could be transpiled to JavaScript and old good HTML. So basically, you can use your favorite framework. They all equipped with nice starters for progressive web apps, and for Angular, they have a special service worker that will be moved to core quite soon. You can just go for a new framework of the week. You know how this works in web front-end stack. To get best practices on how to use your framework, I really recommend you to go to this website, Hacker News PWA. And this is to-do MVC of our days. At the moment, there are 8 different implementations for different frameworks. About language, as I mentioned, oldie goldie JavaScript, new one, which is actually today's one, TypeScript, Flow, Dart, CoffeeScript, whatever you want, whatever your tooling can convert to JavaScript. This was about coding and mostly about UI. What about hardware? Because the point to have a mobile application is not just to mimic the website, but provide more interesting features. Ionic, we go for Ionic Native. A really nice set of plugins. Actually, these are Cordova plugins wrapped into the container that is suitable, convenient to use within Angular app. So basically, they expose promises and observables. If we go to have a camera, we can just have this quite simple code. It's Angular, TypeScript, install plugin camera, and use it. Super simple. React, NativeScript, as I mentioned, direct access to native APIs if we really wish. It's a bit out of our today's scope, but it's all possible, of course, using, say, JavaScript approach to this. Also, you can relatively easily take any native plugin using CocoaPods. This is package manager for iOS, and of course it's equipped with hundreds of its own built-in and driven by community plugins. The list is really exciting, and you can find pretty much everything that you can even imagine to use for your mobile phone. Again, let's have a look at how camera works. Go for installing this plugin, and the code is pretty much the same. We import camera, and we take picture. That's it, we got it. React Native. First, some hardware APIs exposed as a part of native APIs. For example, geolocation. Also, as I mentioned, you can be brave and go and write native code. Of course, if you have some experience with iOS and or Android. Plus, community-driven components. Really nice ones, a lot of. So these are APIs that are built-in, internal ones. Components at js.coach. And same, let's have a look how the camera will look like. We go, we install the component, and use it. The only difference here, you see that is because of this is React-inspired syntax, we have both template and code in one place. This is what we call JSX. This is totally fine, and if it looks a bit strange for you, no worries. You will get benefits quite soon. PWA. Okay, we are limited to using web APIs because this is a regular JavaScript application. We don't have any Cordova or native code. But don't be so sad because the list is really large, and you see this picture not for the first time today. This is a nice website called What Web Can Do Today, and we can just go and use get user media APIs. So no reason to give a code here. It's pretty obvious. So this was about us developers. What can we give to users? Which benefits using all the options? Of course, main point for users is performance. In quite wide sense, you know, like smooth UI, like fast networking, all that stuff. I will not go into the details here. And of course, it's a disclaimer. You know, the key component of performance is our own code. So let's have assumption that we always write the perfect code, the best available for the platform. Then we can state following. There is no serious performance difference between native apps written in Swift, Objective-C, and Java, and the ones written in NativeScript and React Native. So this is all the point to have this complexity, to go for real, for truly native. And also, unfortunately, hybrid version of app will never be as fast, as performant as the native one. This is just obvious limitation, more abstraction layers, less speed. But I can mention that Ionic team does great job on optimizing whatever possible to optimize. And for now, they have experiments with different version of WebView, which is not UI WebView, but WK WebView. And sooner or later, we will have our applications running there. There are a lot of technical limitations, and now it's exposed as a plugin, so you can experiment with this, so it's not a default way yet. So let's advocate a bit for hybrid and web approach. Once you get the performance which is fast enough for your users, maybe it's okay for you to not for more complex options. So I can say that hybrid apps work absolutely fine for brochure-like applications, for mobile versions of websites. It's super suitable for fast prototyping and you know, for many business applications when you don't need heavy work with graphics, when you don't need 60 FPS. So it's definitely not about gaming, not about graphic editors, but for huge amount of application, this will work fine. Also, I can mention that browser vendors constantly working on improving speed of JavaScript. And as stated at Google I/O this year, just during 1 year, JavaScript in Chrome for Android became seriously faster. The last point, business. Just a dash of this. And yeah, here, unfortunately, bad news for native approach. Almost half of consumers go not to app stores to find something they need on their mobile phones, but just to go for search something. And these guys, NativeScript and React Native, basically can't offer anything for this. Ionic goes smart way. You remember I mentioned that I emphasized that one single code for all platforms. And since this is web application, what we wrap into native container, we, well, after some tuning, after some polishing, can expose the same version of an application as a website. They go this direction, so this is not like a side effect. No, Ionic team put a lot of efforts into this. For example, they introduced new layouts more suitable for desktops. Recently, they introduced support of PWA, which is, you know, quite early days yet. Basically, what they do, they introduce app manifest with default package, plus they supply totally empty service worker. So go and code it if you need it. Also, continue our bad statistics for app stores. Yeah, you already seen some numbers from previous sessions, but nothing good for app stores again. And yeah, by the way, on the second point, this is not love. This is less than 3 per month. Yeah, as a result, it's very, very expensive to get new users for native mobile applications. PWA definitely wins here. Easy to find, search, go and you are here. Easy to share, send a link and it's done. Install. It's really even hard to say that we have to have some efforts to install. We can just agree on clicking the button. And update. It's all done totally transparent, under the hood, and plus we can save on traffic, quite serious. Well, back to our question. We need a mobile app. Now you have something to say, you have some options, you already have some opinions. So let's go create nice mobile application. And please remember that more than half of smartphone users, which is basically more than 1 billion people, each day after they wake up, the first action is to grab their smartphone. So please, let's do not confuse and make these people sad by poor experience produced by our mobile applications. Dziękuję ci bardzo. It was Maxim.